Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So as you know that now there is going to be a change of topic, and before I go into a change of topic during this break, I thought about a few things that you all must know before I proceed. One thing that you must know, because Arjuna came to me after the class, and over the discussion there is something that triggered in me which I felt it's important to understand, right? So I will try to make it clear. Let's come back to that Satya-Mithya relationship and use that relationship to see the relationship between mind and its thoughts and awareness. Satya-Mithya relationship. So now, the thought. What is a thought? If I think of a tree, what is his thought? What is the content of the thought? The content of the thought is the tree, but without something, the tree thought is not possible. In the picture. The thought itself. That means that yes, the tree thought has a tree as a content. Is there something more basic as a content without which the tree thought is not possible?
You need to have light in order to see the tree.
That's true, that's your eyes, but I'm talking about the thought.
Awareness.
Huh?
Awareness.
Exactly. So that means the relationship, let's use this as an example, and let's look at the tree thought, right? So in that thought, as Shan is saying, the object of the thought is what? The tree. But what is the content? Like the form, tree, which is the form of a thought, comes, but the content is what? As Carl is saying, awareness. That is a Satya-Mithya relationship. What is a Satya-Mithya relationship? Without awareness, the tree thought cannot be. But while the tree thought is there, awareness is not what? Taking the attributes of the tree thought at all. Just like this. Without the clay, the pot is not possible, but while giving the rise to the pot, clay is free from being the pot. Don't think of awareness as something which is outside of the thought. And keep trying to think that, oh, let me just be other than the thought. Awareness and thought relationship is that of Satya and Mithya. In every thought there is awareness. Without awareness there is no thought. But as I told you yesterday, that the same awareness now thinks of a tree, then thinks of what? Horse. The same awareness takes a form of what? As though takes a form of what? The horse. Without being either a tree or a horse. That's why I was telling yesterday that in the thought, the awareness is not at all tainted by the thought, that the content of the thought which is there.
What is a word like friendship? What is then
relationship between Satya and Mithya.
Friendship?
Yeah.
Friendship?
Not
Okay.
an object like
Yeah,
the
sure.
pot,
Okay,
you know?
yeah, sure. So this, let's first understand this
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
come to that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I will tell you that. Yeah, that's very good. So that means when there is no thought, please understand, then in between two thoughts there is what? Awareness. So that means this is what we mean by that which is there when the thought is there, without which thought is not possible. Thought takes a specific form. That's why there are two different thoughts. One is a tree thought, the other one is a horse thought. Both thoughts are not possible without awareness. But awareness, while giving rise to the thought, is independent of being that thought. It doesn't take on the characteristics of that thought onto itself. If you try to think that there is an awareness which is outside those thoughts, what you will do is make awareness into an object, away from the thought in time and space.
How does it, I'm a little confused around like the relationship in terms of, so how do you influence the thoughts, like what influences the thought?
Now, what influences the thought is a different process altogether. What we are right now seeing, that is going to come, right? What is our thought life and all that, and what makes us develop our thought. A little bit we saw that external stimuli comes and then it invokes some kind of a emotion in you, then you make the decision, and then you use your memory, and all this is, then you create an I sense, and all that influences the nature of thought.
Right.
Now we are talking about none of this actually is possible without awareness, and awareness is free from all. Then how is it all done, and how to improve the quality of that is the next topic. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, therefore, don't look for awareness, don't try to separate thought and awareness. The minute you try to do it, what will you do? Tell me, what will you do?
I have two objects.
You have two things. Dependent reality means thought cannot exist. Thought is also mithya. Everything is mithya. Thought cannot exist. You cannot think of a tree without awareness. But while the awareness makes the tree thought possible, itself is free from being the tree. Doesn't take on the attribute of tree.
And the paradox moment is that we still work with the thought of awareness. Even awareness is a thought or a word. So we are dealing with it right now.
Yes.
Because we have to, but in the end, it's a tricky thing because,
yes,
you know.
True. So that's why I say, see, you're right. The only way the understanding can take place is through the mind. There is no other place where the understanding can take place.
And that
so
is
that
within,
means
yeah.
mind is where there is confusion, and mind is where the confusion can go, and the only way through which it can go is this teaching can produce a certain thought in you, right? There is no other way. Now, if that thought is exactly corresponding to what I mean, then that's knowledge. If that thought that it is created in your mind is not exactly corresponding to what I mean, then there is not total knowledge. This is why we call that vritti, the thought, which is, this is a little bit technical, I will talk, maybe I'll not talk, or I'll talk about it later. The thought which gives rise to the final knowledge is called akhandakara vritti. It's called akhandakara.
Like the root thought.
So that means a thought which gives rise to what I want to convey is exactly what you understand. There is no your addition or subtraction or no projection onto what the teaching is saying.
Mm.
So that's why the teaching makes you see the fact that the thought cannot be existing without awareness. I'm using the thought to make you see that.
Yeah.
And I'm also using another thought to make you see that whatever you think of doesn't stick to awareness, by making you see that when you have a next thought of a horse, the tree is completely gone.
Yeah.
I'm using the thought
Yeah.
to make you see,
Yeah.
free the awareness from the attributes of thoughts.
Yeah.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
But saying seeing all that is also not correct, because you don't really see it, but you kind of, because it's not in the senses of seeing. But
Yes,
in the sense of
super,
seeing.
exactly, absolutely. So that means I'm making you see it in the terms of understanding.
Yeah.
I'm making you understand. That's true. I'm not making you see as a visual. That's true. So that is one thing that you need to understand. Don't search for awareness outside. There is nothing outside. Where there is mithya, that's exactly where there is satya. The clay is not outside the pot. Wherever, that's why it is limitless.
But if you say that the object is within awareness, it's still not going to work, because it means there's still space.
Wonderful.
So-
Excellent. Now, that means that's a very good thing. That was my second point. Right? That's a very important point. When I say, that's very good. So when I, so is that clear? The relationship between thought and awareness, is it clear? What is it?
Now we come to the test.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry.
You want to get
Okay.
the certificate?
The certificate. That is also what Gandhi, and they said that there was a teacher that Chinmayananda went to, and they said, I'll teach you once only, and I'll ask you a question. And you have to answer correctly. If you don't answer correctly, you're out. That was Chinmayananda's teacher. So that's that they saw a movie, and I don't know if they saw a movie, they told me. So therefore, okay. So therefore, the thought cannot exist without awareness. Awareness, giving rise to the thought itself is future. Now, the next, the last verse which I said, and in that I said Atma is avikarya. Avikarya means which doesn't undergo any modification. And it doesn't have an attribute, and it doesn't undergo modification like the body undergoes modification of being born, declining, dying, all of that. Now, one thing is very important, and that is what we come to Tobias' point, and that is, if awareness is something which is the truth of every object, right? It still doesn't make it totally limitless, because you need to know that this awareness, which is the truth of all objects, and all objects are within time and space. So you also need to examine the relationship between awareness and time and space, without which the inquiry is not complete. Because the objects exist within time and space, and is awareness, and awareness is the truth of all objects. But what is the relationship of awareness with time and space? That we haven't done yet. That is Sat. What? There are 3 words which are used by Shastra. Each word has a meaning. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Up to now, we have seen what? 2 words. Which are the 2 words we have seen? Chit and Ananta. What we haven't seen is Sat. and that word sat indicates the relationship of awareness with time and space. Adi Shankaracharya describes the word sat in its in Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashya as Trikale api tishtati iti sat. What does it mean? That which exists in all periods of time. So that means it is, show me one object which exists within all periods of time. Is there any object? There is no object which exists in all three periods of time. What are the three periods of time? Past, present and future. That is what is meant Trikala. Trikala means three periods of time. Past, present and future. So now let's look at the relationship of awareness. Is it subject to time or it is some other relationship with time? If it is subject to time, it's just one of the objects. And anything that exists within time and space necessarily undergoes modification. Can't avoid it. So therefore, the relationship of awareness is, it's not a product which exists within time and space, it is truth of time and space.
My mind has difficulty in imagining that there was ever a time when there was no space. But space as being an object would then... Was there a time then when there was no space?
Yeah. So that is, it's hard to imagine. But that's when the scientists, we will look a little bit into Vedanta first. But see, when scientists talk about Big Bang, so that means that space is what? When the Big Bang happened, space and time came. Time and space is part of the universe. And this is why, see, Einstein's whole theory of relativity of time and space, for the longest time, the classical physics believed that time and space is constant. It's always there, and everything else comes and goes within time and space. So they took time and space almost as absolute. And Einstein, for the first time, in fact, when he discovered, he himself was shaken. About seeing that time and space itself is relative. Now, theory of relativity is difficult to explain, but let me use Vedanta to explain what. But I try to explain, and Surya always tells me that I try to explain theory of relativity, but he says, hey, you don't know so much, so let me just not. I try to explain, and nobody has told me that you don't know so much except for him. I don't pretend to know it, but I attempt, right? But I will use Vedanta to show you the relativity of time, the relationship of awareness with time and space. Now, the Trikala, which is past, present and future, if you really begin to inquire into the truth of time, then the past, when it was past, it was what? Present. And now if I'm thinking of past, it is what? Present thought. The subject is past, but it is a present thought. Future, when it is going to take place, it is going to be what? Present. And the future, my thought about the future now is what? Present. So therefore, everything, whether it is the past or the present, it seems as though the past or the future, it is something that what we need to crack really is the present. Present, if we understand, then that seems to be the way through which I understand time. Now, if I look into the present, then I have to say, hey, what is present? What is present?
What I see.
So that means by the time you finish the sentence, what you see has undergone a change. When you started, it was not the starting point where there was time is not the same time as when you finish the sentence. So therefore, generally when we talk about time, for our convenience, we talk about what? Units of time. So what all of us agree that right now it is 12, or 5 minutes to 12, about 12, right? So we count time in terms of hour, right? That's a unit of time through which we try to capture time, the present time. Now, that 1 hour is itself nothing but what? 60 minutes. So the present is something which is, I need to understand, because the past, when it was the past, it was present. Now when I'm thinking of the past, it is the present. Future, when it will take place, it is present. Now when I'm thinking about the future, it is the thought of the present. So the present, when I inquire into, then it is what I think that the present is in terms of 1 hour. That 1 hour is nothing but what? 60 minutes. So after 60 minutes we change the unit and we call it 1 hour. 1 minute is nothing but 60 seconds. 1 second is nothing but how many microseconds? Nanoseconds? 1,000
milliseconds.
Yeah. So therefore, when I inquiring into the time itself, just like object, it keeps on reducing and reducing to something else and something else. The time also goes on what? Reducing to another units and another units and another units. How far will you go? Microsecond, nanosecond, then what?
Concept.
Exactly. Come back to concepts. And the relationship of the time, the two, awareness is same. The time also reduces in awareness. It is therefore, awareness is not a product of time. It's not an object within time. It's a very truth of time, from which the concept of time comes. Now, space. Space is, as Shan says, for us, space is the most constant, seems to be the most constant thing, and that is the same story. If you think about, generally when we think about space, we think about what the objects which occupy different point in space, right? You occupy this point in space and I occupy what? This point in space. Now, so that means there is space and we all occupy what? Different points in space. True? Now, what is the distance? The distance is counted by what? The point that he occupies and the point that I occupy, it has what? A distance, right? It's all in space. True? Now, if I ask, what is the distance between me and Shan? What will you say? How much is the distance? 2 meters. 2 meters? Okay, wonderful. So 2 meters. Now, this 2 meters itself, so let's take 1 meter. 1 meter itself is how many centimeters? 100 centimeters. 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. I'm so happy all of you are.
Great.
I'm going to write notes. And 1 millimeter is, so that means it again that goes on dividing to infinity. Infinity. And the magic is that when you count the number of points which are there between a finite distance, how many points are there? Infinite. Infinite points. So that means here to here I draw 1 point, then 1 point, then 1 point, and it never ends. So that means time, when I look into the time, it becomes a concept. Space, when I look into the space, it becomes a concept. So awareness is not only the truth of all objects, it is also the truth of what? Time and space. Sat, Chit, Ananda, Atma. From which the time comes, from which the space comes, from which all the objects which exist within time and space come. Without which none of them can exist, itself is free from all. So therefore, this it is avikarya. Avikarya means not being subject to time. It's not an object within the time. It being the truth of time, it is not subject to vikara. Vikara means modification. So that is the second thing that I wanted to explain, which is, I think it's very important. And the third thing which I wanted to explain is this whole thing about, this bliss, ananda. See, this, you can ask me this question, if it is not bliss, why this Satchidananda is used? You can ask me that question. I'll be happy to answer that question. Because this ananda is not, the word ananda is not used to confuse you. It's not like when you go fishing, you put a bait and then you get the fish. So it's not like Vedantists are searching for some students and the bait is what? Ananda. So let's get them hooked on to Vedanta through Ananda. And then we'll tell them what we have to tell. It's not that. It is used for a reason. It is used for a reason, and that reason is with reference to our Purushartha. Purushartha means your search. What are you searching for? Tell me. Every human being, when you come to Vedanta, or even if you don't come to Vedanta, what are you looking for?
Happiness.
Yes. So that means you are looking for fulfillment, and the fulfillment, the name is happiness, right? Then you give it a name called happiness. Now, you are searching for happiness, and you know what happiness is. It's not that you don't know what happiness is. How do you know what happiness is? There are moments in your life where you found yourself happy, right? Now, if I ask you, what brought you happiness? Tell me. Give me one experience of your life when you felt happy. Tell me.
Girlfriend.
Huh?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend. Wow.
In the beginning, yeah.
That's lovely. That's nice. Okay. So now, look at this. So water. No, water is too boring. Let's take girlfriend.
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
So that means, see, the thing is that, so imagine you're young, you're 16. How old are you? Okay, let's say you're 16, 18, right? 17, and you're like full of life, and you meet somebody, right? And then there is a spark in the eye, then you start talking, then there is a little bit of flirting, And then what? What does it give you? Tell me.
Hormone rebellion.
So it does give you some happiness. Right? And then what happens is, as you get to engage with that person, then what happens? You know, you find, oh, somebody's finally attracted to you. Somebody loves you. Somebody likes you. That's a lovely feeling, right? It's a lovely feeling. And that gives you this happiness. So now, what is your conclusion that this happiness that I'm feeling is, what is the source of that happiness? Tell me.
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend. That is our conclusion. That the girlfriend is the cause for happiness. You ask the same person, and now that girlfriend that you had of 17 years, is she still with you? If she was the source of happiness, you would be hanging on to her. That means your life is solved. Every time you have your girlfriend who then becomes your wife with you, you're happy. But that doesn't seem to happen.
Like in the Bollywood movie, huh?
So then what happens is, as you get close, the what they call the honeymoon period goes.
She turns the source of happiness turns into the source of headache.
So that means, exactly. So what you thought was the reason for your happiness, if she really was the reason for your happiness, your life is solved. You don't need Vedanta. You have this girl with you and you're happy forever. Forever happy. So that means the source was happiness was not really her. Because if she was the source, then every time you're with her, then you would be happy. But the same person made you irritated, angry. So therefore, the source is clearly not her. And also, if she was the source of happiness, everybody would be surrounding her because everybody is also searching for happiness. So therefore, the one thing you have to understand, you have an experience of happiness. That is undeniable. But the source that you think is the source is not really the source. You think it is the girl who is the source, but she's not. Because if she was the source, every time you were with her, you would be happy. And everybody else, every time they were with her, they would be happy. But that's not the case. Now, can you then say, the source is me? Can you say that?
It's feeling good about yourself.
Okay. Can you say the source is you? If you said the source is you, you don't need anybody else.
Logically it is, but it's difficult to accept it.
So that means, please understand, no, we are looking at the experience of happiness and we are trying to see what is the source. Neither the source is an object, in this case it is what? The girl. Nor the source is me, the person who's searching for fulfillment. Why? Because if you really were already happy, you would not be searching in the first place. This is very interesting. Because you can't deny the happiness experience, but you can't find the source. Neither it is you, nor it is the object. Then where is the source?
You start searching.
You start searching, but then what is the result of that search?
Isn't it the absence of the search for the object that
Super. So that means what Vedanta says is, why is it even if you are not the source of happiness, neither the girlfriend is source of happiness, but when you are meeting her, there is an experience of happiness, and that experience, where does it come from? It comes from, listen carefully, it comes from a little bit what Chan said is, it for that time being, while you're with her, the seeker in you is with what? The sought. Who is the girl? When there is a seeker and sought is completely what? Resolved, there is an experience of happiness. Understand that. Now, that happiness doesn't last for too long, because the seeker in you begins to what? Seek something again. So again there is what? A division between what? Seeker and sought. You met her today for 1 hour, now you are home and you again want to meet her again tomorrow. So in between you feel you are not happy. Why? Because the seeker sought was resolved for a while and then it re-emerged. Now next time you are with her but she is out of mood, so she is not talking to you well. What happened to your happiness? Gone. Why? Because the seeker in you who's seeking what? What is the sought? Not only her, but her who pleases you. That's what you are searching. But she is no longer pleasing you because she has her own emotional life. Then, even in her presence, the seeker sought is not resolved. Why is it not resolved? Because what you are seeking, what is sought, is not her, the physical person, but her capacity to please you. So that means that what gives you the experience of happiness is what? The resolution of what? Seeker and sought. And generally, when we engage in the world, we constantly create what? Seeking. I want this, I want that, I want this. And when you get it for a time being, you feel happy. And what you try to do is expand that, lengthen that experience or deepen that experience. But most of the time, it doesn't happen. And by the time, even if you do it, your preferences also change. This is how we keep having fleeting what? Happiness. Now, how is Vedanta related to all this? Vedanta is related to all this because what you are really searching for is what? Resolution of seeker and sought. Vedanta, through this knowledge of oneness, it permanently resolves the problem of what? Seeker and sought. There is no second thing in the universe. This is knowledge. Atma and Anatma is Satya-Mithya relationship.
Seeking moksha, satya.
Exactly. So that means there is no real seeker-sought. Mithya has no real existence. Asataha bhavaha na vidyate. Sataha abhavaha na vidyate. So that means if you know this reality, the seeker in you is permanently resolved. Why? Because there is no sought in the first place. This is why we call it not Ananda, we call it Ananda Swarupa. Ananda Swarupa means every Ananda has a phenomena. What is that phenomena? Seeker, sought, resolution. This is Ananda Swarupa, which means that knowing this nature of Atma, the seeker-sought division is resolved permanently. Because Atma is fullness. There is nothing lacking in Atma. There is no second thing other than Atma.
Explain it to your girlfriend.
So
Would be interesting.
That is interesting. That is interesting. If she is willing to understand, that's fine. Now, please understand, when you understand that, it doesn't mean that the mind is always in the state of happiness. Please understand that. You can't keep any state of mind permanently. That is the definition of mind.
Impermanence.
Impermanence and changing nature of thoughts. So that means your freedom comes, please listen to it carefully, not by having one particular thought stuck to your mind forever, which is a bliss or happiness thought. Your freedom comes because you know I'm much more than this little thought. These thoughts come and go. Their nature is to change. I'm not only the truth of all the thoughts which are in my mind. I'm the truth of what? All the thoughts which exist in anybody's mind. Awareness is the truth of all, not just one mind. It is the truth of the bird's mind. It is the truth of the fish's mind. Mind is an object which is put together. It is mithya. This awareness is satyam. It is the truth of not only my mind, every mind that is there in the universe, in the past, in the present, and in the future. Trikale api tishtati. Without which there is no body, without which there is no mind, without which there is no experience, and itself is free from all. Atma. Your buddhi has to reach subtlety to understand that reality. So therefore, this Ananda is Ananda Swarupa. Knowing which the seeker sought is permanently resolved, which we are trying to do through what? The experience of Ananda. The experience of Ananda means a temporary resolution of seeker sought. So therefore, this is why the tradition uses the name Atma. Change of topic. These three things which I thought were important for you to understand properly. I sometimes over-give information. I don't know if you're ready or not, or whether it is too much or not. But I as a teacher feel, even if you don't get it, it's good to keep in mind. Even if you understand partially what I'm speaking, it's important. So whatever I think is important, which will not mislead you in understanding something else, I feel I have to say. Now, the next topic, Lord Krishna now says, Esha te vikita sankhe buddhi yoge trimam shrunu buddha yukto yaya fatha karma bandham nahasyasi. So, here it says, Esha te abhihita sankhya. Up to now, I have taught you Sankhya. What is Sankhya? Knowledge. Knowledge of what? What is the real nature of Atma. Now, he says, Buddhi yoge tu imam shrunu. Now I'm going to change the topic and I'm going to talk about Buddhi yoga. What is Buddhi Yoga? In the common parlance, we call it Karma Yoga. So, Buddhi Yoge to Imam Shrunu, then he says, Buddha Yukto Yayav Partha Karma Bandham Prahasasi. This knowledge which I just told you about the nature of Atma is not an easy knowledge. So that means you need to have a prepared mind in order to capture this knowledge in its totality. So therefore, you require a mind which is what? Non-projecting mind, an objective mind, a mind which is not caught with its own fancies, projections. And fancies and projections need not only be in terms of desires of I want this and I want that. It can also be in terms of what? Your emotional life. It can also be in terms of all the unconscious which is nicely waiting in your buddhi, which keeps manifesting from time to time. It also can mean that the lack of cognitive capacity through which you cannot follow all the logics clearly to understand what is being said. Whole of Vedanta is based on very intricate reasoning. So that means this mind has to be prepared at so many different levels. Your emotions, your the memory, the unconscious memory, your cognitive capacity has to be sharpened. Your self-image has to improve. All this is what we call preparation of the mind. Because the mind is the place where this knowledge is going to take place. When the mind is all clouded, then this knowledge cannot shine. So they use an imagery. What is the nice imagery they use? It's not exactly the case, but similar, right? So there is a sun, and you have a kind of a little pot, and then you have muddy water. The sun is shine and bright, but if the water is muddy, how is it going to reflect in that water? Not very well. But if the water is clear, then how is going to be the reflection? Right. So that means if your mind is all confused with the very heavy emotions, and the thinking is all little jumbled up, and there is a huge unconscious which is making you project things which are not there, and you suffer from a low self-esteem, and that mind is the one who has to understand all this and figure out what is the nature of Atma. Tough. So that means you need to, Atma is what it is. But you need to, in order for you to understand it properly, you need to work on improving the quality of your mind. That is without which, this is just like, lip service we pay. So therefore, he says, now, one thing is wonderful, okay, I want to prepare my mind. What am I going to do to prepare my mind? How am I going to reduce all these different afflictions with which my mind is right now struggling with? How am I going to do it? It's easy to say, okay, you just prepare your mind and make it clear like water, and then Vedanta will work for you. Lord Krishna himself tells you how to begin to clean up. That cleaning up is necessary. So, through Yoga Shastra, he is teaching about improving the quality of your mind, which is through which ultimately you will understand your true nature. So now he says, Buddhya yukto yayav partha. So that he says, now when you use karma yoga to what? Have a mind which is clear, objective mind, which is not afflicted with kind of a, self-defeating emotions, then what he says, ultimately you will karma bandham prahasyasi. You will be able to free yourself from the bondage of samsara. So that is nice. Now, then he is going to talk about how to improve the nature of how to make ourselves ready for this knowledge. The next verse is talking about how to do it. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kuru nandana bahushakhayanantascha buddhayo vyavasayina. This is a very important verse. It talks about, see, the mind right now you are preparing, it will help you in anything. Even if you are not within, if you are not a mumukshu, the person who is searching for moksha, a clear thinking mind which has emotions in its place, who has a healthy self-esteem, who doesn't have all the unconscious interfering, who doesn't want that kind of a mind? Tell me. Whether you want moksha or not, it's nice to have that mind. Here it is a preparation for something very big, but everybody would desire a mind like that. Who doesn't want a mind like that? But here, in the case, he's talking about this kind of a mind for a specific purpose. What is a specific purpose? Moksha. That mind you need for knowing your true nature, which he just already explained what the true nature of Atma is. So therefore, this is what he calls Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. What is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi? Nishchayatmika Buddhi. Nishchayatmika Buddhi means well ascertained Buddhi about what? About what you want in life. So that means, first you need to know what are you looking for in life. That means, most of the people, when you ask them what are you looking for in life, they don't know exactly what they are looking for in life. Or they have very short-term goals. I'm looking for, when Surya asks all these MBA students, what are you looking for in life? They said, I want to become a CEO. Then he says, what does CEO mean? It's only a title. What do you want? And then they're, oh yeah, what do I want? So that means, most of the time, we are searching for things, and so you, and the whole life gets wasted in thinking that those things will give me the fulfillment that I'm searching for. When I'm young, I think that the chocolate will do the job. Then when I become a little older, it's a girlfriend. Then when I'm a little older, it thinks that, oh, when I have this, buy a beautiful villa, have a big business, and that's how life comes to an end. One thing after the other. Then there are, this particular search is in Sanskrit called what? The pursuit of Artha and Kama. Most of the human beings are searching for, Artha is what? Different forms of security. What will make you secure will keep changing as you grow, but that you are searching for security through other things remains the same. That is called artha. In addition to artha, there is a second pursuit, and that pursuit is called kama. What is this kama pursuit? Different forms of pleasure. So the pleasure can be a vacation. So the same girlfriend, which is not only a form of security where you feel important, it also is form of what? Pleasure. See, it's not different things. Sometimes there are two things give you two different things. One thing can give you two different feelings. So pleasure can be sports, the pleasure can be vacation, it can be anything. So these artha and kama are the means through which people are searching for fulfillment. There are some people who are also not only kind of artha and kama, they say, okay, I want to earn money, I want to have a family, I want to do things, but I want to live, do it properly. This is what we call the pursuit of dharma. Properly in the sense that I don't want to step on somebody's toe, I don't want to hurt others in order to get what I'm looking for in life. That is not always easy. This is why it is called pursuit. Pursuit because you have to make some effort to follow dharma. So, most of the humanity is pursuing artha, dharma and kama. Artha and kama, almost everyone. Few of them follow dharma also. Now, and what you are searching for? Fulfillment. Now, through this process, what happens is, I get this and I feel that it will make me feel secure. I go on a holiday because I think it will make me happy. But as I told you, it only gives you what little glimpses of happiness. And what you are really interested in is what? Permanent happiness. So therefore, you kind of conclude that if at some point in your life, if you conclude that what most of the people are searching for happiness through is not able to give the happiness, then you call yourself a person who's searching. Because you've concluded what normally people do cannot give people, neither them nor me, what everybody is searching for. Now, that also includes dharma, by the way. There are a lot of people, in Bombay, when people come to my class, there is a lot of this word of mouth. So people say, oh, this class is really good. So then the other person who's listening will say, oh, but I'm a good person. I don't do anything bad to anybody. I try to be honest. I try to look after my family. I'm kind to others. So I don't need Vedanta. What does it mean?
Ignorance.
Yeah, exactly. It means ignorance because that person has concluded dharma is the end. Why is it ignorance? Because the person has concluded dharma is the final goal. There is nothing else other than dharma, living a clean, good life.
This is what the church telling us.
And in fact, most of the humanity thinks like that, right? Most of the humanity that ultimately what counts is to be a good human being, and that's it. The whole life is about being a good human being. What you have to see very clearly is even dharma is not the solution. Why is it not solution to happiness? Because you observe the people who are following dharma. And you see, somewhere along the line, there is dissatisfaction. How? In different forms. one source of dissatisfaction can be, which is a very common dissatisfaction, and that is, oh, you know, people who are dishonest, they go ahead in life, and I try to be honest, and I'm getting a raw deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means you can be dharmic, but you can be
Dharmic.
dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Dissatisfied.
Or it's you follow
you-
it. It's you follow it Dhamma by like a motivation, which is not like within. It's for your own pleasure and for your own joy,
Yes.
but it's not the meaning of Dhamma. So this is like the ignorance about it. So
So what we want to show is the dharma itself cannot give you the fulfillment, because there is this one reason, which is what you may feel that others are getting ahead and you are not getting ahead enough with your dharma. The second reason why you may not be satisfied is that, you know, I hear a lot of people, when they are highly dharmic, they become very rigid and they expect everybody else to follow that dharma to the highest level. And wherever you go, you will find people who are not totally dharmic, right? Then what happens is that interaction with others becomes what? They constantly looking down on others. You may have very high standards, but you are constantly finding faults with others. So I was just telling, I think was it Anand, or I don't know to whom was I saying, that, and this is a real case. So I have a couple, and the couple had some difficulty. So the wife came to see me, and she told me, she says that I met my husband when we were 16, 17 years old, and they stayed on, right? So they didn't separate, and now they are husband and wife. And she said when we were dating, I told him, she was 16 or 17, and she said I lied about my age. So that means she told that she was maybe 1 year younger than what she actually was. And she says, after 30 or 40 years of marriage, every time we have a fight, he tells me, you're a liar. You deceived me. And our whole relationship is based on falsehood, because you were not honest with me. So that means he thinks, please understand this, he thinks in his vision, he is very dharmic. And his relationship with his wife is fixed on one event, which happened 40 years ago. And he's stuck to that thing, and he's constantly telling her that she's not up to the mark. Now, please understand, he thinks he's very righteous. He thinks he's very evolved, because he doesn't speak lies. But he fails to see, by doing this, how much hurt he's giving her. Our definition of dharma becomes so narrow, like I explained in the story of Mahabharata.
it's like the pre-post confusion. You think you reached already the level, but you didn't go through the whole process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So emotional maturity is something which is multi-dimensional. We get stuck to one narrow thing, and we think we've reached a certain height, and we use that to look down upon others and treat them badly. And we think we still keep our self-image. We are highly ethical.
But it's a way to cope with the low self-esteem still.
Exactly. So that means there is so much confusion behind you, that the image of the person for himself is highly ethical. But behind it, there are so many things which the person doesn't see. So this is how, what the growth that Vedanta is talking about is that not to get stuck in these kind of positions. You really have to become much more large, much more understanding, and a much more evolved human being. It's a multi-dimensional growth that Karma Yoga is talking about. So therefore, dharma by itself, if you just follow dharma, it can create so many different confusions. You can live with a lot of confusions even though you are trying to, in your vision, follow dharma. So now, even dharma cannot get you what you are looking for. Because necessarily we get caught with one idea of dharma, which is really not the dharma. So then the fulfillment that I'm searching can only come from what? Understanding of the nature of life. Because all this, artha, dharma and kama, is all pursued with my understanding of myself as what? This little human being. And that's the only reality about me. The minute you say that even dharma cannot be the ultimate solution, you are a searcher. And the person who's searching for fulfillment, not through artha, dharma and kama, is called mumukshu. Moktum ichu. Everybody is searching for freedom, but people are searching through artha, through kama and through dharma. The minute the person realizes through these three things, I cannot get the freedom I'm searching, your name is changed technically according to the Shastra. You are mumukshu. Moktum ichuhu. Moktum ichuhu means the one who desires freedom. Freedom, but freedom not through these three things. Then what you enter what we now call a spiritual world. Everyone searching for freedom. But in that spiritual world itself, there are millions of options. Starting from what? Anything. It starts with health food. I want to eat health food. Then I want to do little yoga to keep my body good. Then I want to do little pranayama because it has many effects. Then I want to do little meditation. Or you want to get into some energies, full energy flow, healing. There's so many things that a human being does. And they all are useful. Please understand, nothing is bad. Something maybe, we don't know. But many of these things have their own, just as healthy food is good for you. It's not that it is bad or anything. But it cannot, please understand, it cannot solve your problem of fulfillment. That you have to understand. So that means, even within the spiritual marketplace, how are you going to decide what you will go for? Because you don't know much. And you are only looking for fulfillment. And you have only concluded these things won't give me. How will you choose? And why would you choose what you choose?
Only by reason.
Wonderful. Reason is the only thing that you have when you listen to people. Now, some people in spiritual circles are so smart, they'll tell you, reasoning, where has it got you up to now?
Or it's a part of the ego and the whole thing is
Exactly.
misguiding you. And stuff.
Absolutely. So they said, here, reasoning will not work. The minute they tell you the reasoning will not work, they can tell you anything and they can get away with it. Because reasoning is the only faculty through which you recognize whether something is reasonable or not.
Or through trial and error and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yes, but trial and error sometimes, when you don't use that reasoning capacity, your criteria for choices also become all over the place.
Or you become a junkie.
So therefore, the one thing that the reason, the essential reason that Vedanta is saying is, which helps you in the choice is, the essential reason, that if by nature you are limited and you are searching for freedom from limitation by something else, whether it is an object or a practice or some kind of an energy, then a limited person getting something limited, can it become free from limitation? Impossible. This is the logic. If the starting point is that I am limited, there is no solution. Because every object in this universe, even though it is energy, it is within time and space. Energy exists within time and space. You have to understand that. All energies exist within time and space. You are limited. The external object, even if it is energy, is limited. Then the limited person getting that something which is limited will always remain limited. And what you are searching for is freedom from limitation. The only way that this problem can be solved is what? The knowledge that I am not limited in the first place. Once you recognize that, you get a new name. From again, not a mumukshu, but jignasu. Jnatu ichu. The one who wants to know. Know what? The nature of life. That is when your search for fulfillment begins to get a certain direction. Otherwise, you are all over the place. Anything goes, anything little fanciful, go for it. So therefore, this is what we call the jignasu. Jignasu is natum ichu. The person who has discerned the fact that I am searching for moksha, and which is freedom. The freedom that I am searching for cannot be gained through artha, dharma and kama. It also cannot be gained through what all the other so-called spiritual practices where the starting point is I am limited. It can only be gained through by what? Knowing my true nature. So that means I need to re-look at my assumption that I am limited. So this is what Lord Krishna calls as Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Vyavasayatmika Buddhi means Nishchayatmika Buddhi. What am I looking for in life? And once you know that it is the knowledge that I am looking for, and Atma is already free from limitation as he taught, already full. But the fact is, I still cannot get the totality of this vision. So therefore, now my life has to become what? The actions that I perform now have to be meant for what? Preparing myself for this knowledge. That's when you become a karma yogi. That is the definition of Karma Yogi. That is the first verse which describes. Not anybody is a Karma Yogi. Please understand. Karma Yogi is a technical name. Only when you understand moksha is what I am searching for. And moksha can be gained through self-knowledge. But self-knowledge will not come just like that. I need to prepare my mind. So the actions that I perform from now on are not just meant for artha, dharma and kama, but to prepare myself for this knowledge. Then you are a Karma Yogi. Just a normal good human being is a normal good human being. You don't call him Karma Yogi. Going to an ashram and doing free job, that doesn't make you Karma Yogi. Karma Yoga means from now on, no matter what I do, I'm going to convert the same action which gives me pain, which gives me suffering, which gives me all these emotions that I can't handle. The same action I'm going to convert into what? Preparation for my mind. How? By looking at things differently. Karma Yoga. So, how now? So that is, this is what a Karma Yogi understands, that the actions are no longer meant for what, getting this and getting that. They are meant for purifying yourself for the knowledge. So Lord Krishna says, this is what he says, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. This is the Nishchayatmika Buddhi. If you don't have this Nishchayatmika Buddhi, he says, Bahushakha Hyanantascha Buddhayo Avyavasayina. What does it mean? If you haven't come to this point, what is the role of knowledge? What is the role of karma? And how karma you use to help you prepare for the knowledge. If you don't have this clarity, then you can be just searching for that freedom in all directions. Bahushakha means many, many, many directions. Anantascha. Anantascha means countless different things which seem spiritual, which gives a semblance of, something fanciful, and you go for it. Avyavasayina, when you haven't figured this out. Now that you have decided to use karma for not just getting this and that, but for your maturity, how are you going to use this karma for your maturity is the next verse. One of the most beautiful verses of Bhagavad Gita. I will just chant it and then we will go for lunch. Because I thought people wanted to have lunch at 1 o'clock. That's what they wanted. So I will chant the verse, beautiful verse, and then we'll see the meaning in the evening class. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturvoho ma te sangotsva karmani. Beautiful verse. This is also one of the most famous verses of Bhagavad Gita, especially in India, but unfortunately one of the most not understood verses. So we will see what the meaning means. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate